want to take us back a little on the issue of the unopposed candidates. And Priska, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. 17 candidates went through unopposed, and all these candidates came from the NRM party. And keep in mind, this is just at parliamentary level. There were also a number of candidates at local government level that came through unopposed. What do you think? What does this say?
I wanted to reinforce that point on independent candidates, because you see, it's an indicator that we do not yet have anything called a multi-party democracy. Political parties are not working. Political parties are not here. And the reason why electoral politics in Uganda is so monetized and commercialized is because of this individual, independent candidate aspect factor. And until we have come up with a solution to the independent candidate factor, we are likely to continue slipping backwards. Because democracy in Uganda today has not only stagnated, but it is regressing. And the reason it is regressing is because of the aspect of allowing individuals to stand as in their own right. In countries, in electoral jurisdictions where multi-party democracy blossoms and thrives, you will not find independent candidates. So I think if we are going to establish political hygiene in our systems and sanitize our politics, we need to address the issue of independent candidates. All of them have to go back to the political parties and make political parties stronger, because it is political parties that can nurture leaders. You cannot nurture yourself we cannot nurture yourself. And I think also it is the reason why we are having political corruption also escalating. Because when someone stands as an independent candidate, then they are financing their own campaign. Then it becomes like a personal investment. And then when they get into offices of power, then they are able to recoup this money, engaging in all sorts of illicit maneuvers. This has to be checked and has to be stopped, and it has to be rethought in order for us to have a democracy. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Henry, for your thoughts on that. We seem to have lost Priska, but we'll get to hear from her when we return from this short break. It seems we aren't going for a break anymore. And Henry, as you were speaking, about the question on the independence. What does this say about political parties in Uganda? Because we know that most of the candidates that come out to stand as independents usually have issues, or they failed in the party primaries, and there's a lot of contestation on how the party primaries are conducted. What does it say about the political parties that we have in the country?
In my view, it is an indictment on the relevance of political parties in Uganda. It is an indictment on the capabilities of people who lead political parties in Uganda. It is a statement of what kind of political parties we have, which is why when you look at them closely, you discover that we do not have things you can call political parties in the true sense of the word. All we have here are political vessels that are being used by different individuals to rise to power, to access political office. These are what they are. Because political parties that did not practice democracy, how can they be participating in the democratic process? Because can you practice what you don't have? Political parties that are not transparent, we have a situation where political parties have been benefiting from public funding, and you don't know how they utilize this money. Okay? All we know is that this money, the moment it arrives in arrears, but also it is treated as some form of cash bonanza. And then they do what they want when they want on taxpayers' money. How can such a political party not receive a vote of no confidence by some of its members who choose to go and stand as independent? So, and how can you have political leaders who are not knowledgeable about leading? Because you see, a political party is a public enterprise. A political party is a complex organization. It is not the kind of organization you lead by waking up every day and keeping the same knowledge you had 10 years ago. You must keep refreshing your knowledge as leaders. Have you had them go for refresher courses? They haven't. They're just there occupying space. And therefore, I think it's a wake-up call for all of us Ugandans, those that belong to political parties, to make sure that some form of professionalism and sanity prevails, but also for the leaders of political parties to understand that the members of these very political parties have cast a vote of no confidence in them, and therefore bringing into question their relevance. It's about time they woke up and started fighting for their relevance, because we stand a situation where we are not going to need these political parties anymore in the future because they have rendered themselves as such. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you, Henry, for that. And Priska, I see you back on. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, sorry that you had technical issues. It's good to have you back on. So before you got off, we were talking about the independent candidates. We saw that 6 out of the presidential candidates that stood were, out of the 11 candidates that stood for president, 6 were independents, and then 1,045 out of the 2,045 that stood for parliamentary seats were also independents. What do you have to say about this? What does this mean for multi-party democracy in Uganda?
Thanks, Lisa. I tend to argue that Ugandans have reached a point whereby they are tired, they're exhausted of the political environment. Most of them are more interested in regime change, and they would fall for anyone that they think has the capability to deliver that to their doorsteps if it can. And when you witness the trend on, most times when you follow social media, and usually we've seen this, the people who are critics of Kyagulanyi, most of their argument is he falls short on ideology, and they camp on Kyagulanyi's side, tend to fire back and ask, okay, we have fallen short of ideology. The ruling party has the most intelligent people and professors, and have brought up all these ideologies for you. Where have these ideologies taken us? And usually their argument is Ugandans no longer don't eat ideology. They want service delivery. So it is like the political parties are no longer attractive to Ugandans, and it's something that they need to go back and work on as political parties, because back in the day you used to have very strong groups like the Young Democrats at Makerere, but that was an avenue for the DP to groom its leaders, because when you see the current leaders who were aligned to DP, most of them came through. And even FDC had a strong youth wing that used to train those political leaders. And even right now, when you see some of those political parties, Henry talked about the issue of refresher courses. When you look at the breed of MPs who came from FDC, you would see a breed of people who received some training in leadership, how they present their views, and it's different from the current breed, because they do. And the times when the NRM is meeting the caucus, they are either taking a decision on something. The only time they are going to Chankwazi is after elections. So there is that bridge on training. But the political parties have a huge task to make their political parties attractive for mostly the youth, because we are looking, these are the people we are looking at who are going to take over from the current breed. And already some of the people who are in these political parties, who are holding positions, they are also selfish and greedy in the way that they want to hold on to power. They do not want to be taken over by the young turks. And it can be witnessed by what happened in DP. The reason as to why some of its MPs crossed over to MOP, because the leadership was of a view of holding primaries and yet the current MPs thought these positions that worked for them, and they didn't want to go for primaries just in case they would lose out. So that is why some of them ended up crossing over. And someone who is planning to go to join DP can witness all this that is happening into the political parties and begins to question what is the relevance anyway of me. And when you look at some of the reasons as to why as independents, I have a case of an MP in Imbara who was in NRM but currently returned as an independent. When it came to the time for picking nomination forms, he had sickness and went abroad, because he told this story to journalists in Parliament. He faked sickness, went abroad until the elections were done, because he did not want to spend money in the party primaries, of which he was not guaranteed. So what he did was go abroad. The rest went to the battlefield, and in the end, his argument was he wanted to save up money for the final battle, because despite the fact that you're spending money in the primaries, it does not guarantee that is going to be the issue. Even how NRM tried to threaten some of its members not to vie as independents, but the big-headed one still went ahead. So now that is that going ahead, that is the trick they are going to do. That instead of me spending double, about 500 million in the primaries, and as well as I spend another 500 million in the general elections, let me just keep this money. Perhaps I will be able to even save more, because after the primaries, most of them are even they are financially destabilized. So these ones who have stayed away from the primaries tend to use that gap, and so it also hints back to the issue of the high level of the commercialization of our politics. So someone thinks you going as an independent, it is better off than being aligned to a political party, because even these political parties do not give a lot of money, because I think NRM is the only one that gave its parliamentary candidates about 20 million. But when you look at the money they spend, 20 million is just a drop in the ocean. So that is why some of them prefer to step aside. Avenue has been used for you to climb the political ladder. You look at the case of the current speaker, FDC first, then you return as an independent, then you fully undress the other party, then you say and you follow the trend. That is how Katumbi is doing, and I think that is the trend, the trend they are using for. So it is like a bargaining chip. Just in case the other side does not count, you can fall back to the independent side.
Yeah, Priska, you talk about the commercialization of politics, and that also brings me back to the same issue of unopposed candidates. We have had those scenarios where candidates, because they don't want to go through the whole election, pay out their rivals to step down, so they end up going through unopposed. As a journalist, did you get to hear any of these cases? Did you get to hear any of these circumstances?
Of course, the The first circumstance that we got to hear of was the one for the Minister of Finance. And when he came to swearing, when we asked him that question, he told us that we should go and ask the president who appointed his rival. He's not responsible for the appointment. And yesterday when I was reading this report and I came across names of some of the people who ran as unopposed. I think the lady of Madiokolo, Joan, I talked to her and she of course she denied the allegations of bribing her counterparts, but she said she blamed it on her rivals not being ignorant of the requirements of the electoral commission, citing issues of like signing the deed poll, that the women who have taken on the names. That is the example she cited. And I think I also tried to get in touch with the Deputy Attorney General. There were reports that he paid off his opponent about 200 million, but he didn't get back to me. The same case was with Javida. So it made me realize that it is a sensitive topic that some of them don't want to discuss. But what I understand is that it's a trend that some of them are going to try to follow, because I know of one powerful woman MP who was, and reports are like she went as far as having a contact in UNEB to get out the pass slip of her opponent. So when the opponent went to present the examination pass slip, they told her it is a fake. So by the time, and she was taken to jail. By the time the EC reconciled the issue with UNEP, the 2 days of nomination had elapsed. So it was this one trick that the opponent used. So you imagine somebody having powers, and you're still an MP. You're having powers to even go and tamper with something as sensitive as an academic document, because academic documents are our lifeline, literally, for most of us. But UNEB always keeps a copy. But if someone can buy off UNEB to pick even a copy, it tells you of what awaits us, because we are going to see some of these nasty scenarios coming up, the kidnaps and everything. So
I'm going to have to cut you short. It's almost time, and we still have some issues that we haven't touched on. So, Felix, according to the EC report, all elective positions exhibited an increase in the number of nominated candidates compared to the 2016 elections. We had an increase in the presidential slot. In 2016, we had 8, and this time around, we had 11 nominated candidates. For parliamentary, we had 54% for the 2021 elections, and in 2016, it was an increase from 39,000 to 89,000, which is quite high. What do you think explains the growing interest of Ugandans in political participation?
Thank you so much for that question. I think I would also at some point make up the statistics of those who are trying to join politics. I think the reason is one. To date, the most rewarding profession, if I may call it a profession, the most rewarding job is being a politician in Uganda. And because it is very rewarding, so it is attracting very many interests from across in the different positions. You see, it's only in Uganda, probably also in Africa, where politicians live larger than life, where politicians are taken care of by taxpayers, and the people who are paying their tax, who are paying the taxes to keep them in office, are impoverished. If you want, there are very many benefits if you're a politician or if you end up in politics. direct and indirect. For example, apart from the fat paycheck, you also have opportunities to make deals. You have immunity, you have connections, you open doors. So anybody who has some money will look at politics as one way of either growing your money, your wealth, um, or look at politics as an opportunity to make money, or use politics as a window to amass wealth. Henry, before you went off, talked about political corruption. The reason why political corruption is flourishing in Uganda is because of the fact that politics fuels corruption. Politics catalyzes corruption. So when you look at the benefits and advantages of contesting for any electoral position, as opposed to doing business in Uganda, or even when you want to do business and be successful in that business, you are safer doing business under the cover of politics. So that's why you have politicians who are doing business. Or that's why you have politicians bankrolled by businessmen. So when politics becomes business, it's a business, two, it's a job. So if it's a business and it's a job, then it is rewarding. That will automatically push the interest of anybody who wants to contest. And those numbers are going to grow even in 2026. Because as of now, there is no, let me call it, let's look at the position of an MP, how much an MP takes home, plus allowances, comes to about between 50 and 40 million, plus allowances. How many jobs actually pay you that amount of money? How many businesses give you that net turnaround, that net profit? So if you are to choose where you what to invest and have returns on your investment, what people call it sure deal. It is politics. So that explains why we have very many people being nominated, running for political offices, because it's the only lucrative path in Uganda. Shortcut to wealth, shortcut to business opportunities, shortcut to making money. It's a job. It's a business. It's all about deals. That's why we are in that situation. And until we disincentivize politics, and how can we do that? Simple. You reduce the remuneration that goes to politicians. Just reduce it to the point that you are more or less volunteering. You will start to see those numbers dwindle and have more people who are willing to serve than those who are willing to go there and make money. So that's where we are. Back to you.
Thank you, Felix, for your thoughts. Priska, on the same question, we've seen a notable number of journalists also join politics. We've seen performing artists and people from all careers abandoning their careers to join politics. Do you agree with Felix that it is a shortcut to wealth, or are these people really genuinely interested in serving Ugandans? Why is there an increase? What do you think?
Thanks so much, Lisa. I could probably attribute it to the Kyagulanyi wave, because here was some of them try to find his story inspirational, because at no one point did they expect someone, because as they usually call it MDD in parliament, and you know it was the same wave with the Katolugwama and almost the same era. So, and people have looked back at the other politicians that to parliament. For example, we can cite a district like Agago. Agago has one of the highest levels of professors in Latigo, and most of them are highly educated. But when you look at vis-a-vis what is happening on the ground, it's quite different. So it is like a bargaining chip that the Ugandans are trying to throw a card and say, let's probably drop the elites and try to send people who look like us, because the level of education, you also know it. And so it's kind of a try and error method that the Ugandan voters tried, and it kind of worked out for them, because I remember after the elections, somebody on Twitter went and said, the no MPs we voted, we simply ticked, we don't know who you are, so you better start introducing yourself. Who are you? Who are we that we vote? Because they were simply ticking the umbrella. So it was a joke, but there was a huge message lying behind it, because the Ugandans are trying to reclaim their country back from the elites, because they feel that the elites have failed them. So it is time that the ghetto or the uneducated took charge, and they see how the others are going to run the country. And that is now the struggle that the other political parties are having at the moment. So when this whole scenario is giving some people, political analysts, sleepless nights, because it's something that caught them off guard. Because right now you say, how can you take someone of MDD and they tell you, what has your PhD done for us? It's something that the political analysts have to reconcile with. And since I see our time is almost up, I am not so sure if Parliament is going to debate this report. Because I do not remember the one of 2016 being debated or scrutinized, but I look forward to it. But basing on our topic, I think Byabakama should have done a better job. The job he did was very shabby in this report. I hope he gets to his shortcomings, because it appears to be more of a copy and paste edit from the past elections. The mere fact that he didn't mention the violence that happened in November 2020, it's a negative. There is nothing that can explain away this. I know that at the height of the election campaign, he was asked about ignoring some of the things that were taking place, and he told them he does not watch TV because his DSTV was disconnected. I do not know whether he has now been connected back to DSTV to now watch the political trends, but I think it's time the Electoral Commission stopped taking Ugandans for granted, because the work they tend to rely more on the financial accountability, and there was no social accountability on the lives lost. Not even at least he should have even put in an RIP somewhere. It didn't even feature. He was very dismissive of the people who lost lives on those 2 days, and it is really arrogance of the highest order. And I just hope the EC does a better job in the next process, in the next coming elections.
Thank you so much, Priska. And Felix, also, if you could kindly conclude on your thoughts about the entire report and what you think should have been included, what was missed, as you wrap up.
Thank you so much, Lisa. My departing thoughts on the report don't differ so much from what Priska is saying. I think that report falls short on pointing out some of the key outcomes, some of the key processes that defined the 2021 elections. There's no way you can have a report that falls shy on commenting on the violence that we saw, because I think we will agree there was a lot of violence during the electoral period. the too much securitization that we saw. Has not mentioned so much about it. There were also other issues that were observed on the Eid day and also prior to the election day that are not necessarily being captured in the report that speak to the integrity of the process. In my simple observation of this report, is for me, it's more of an accountability tool, and I think that's what EC was doing. And if you're accounting, then you have a template that guides on what you should put where, but also it further reinforces whether EC was in charge of the process for it to be comfortable to report on some of the things most of us we saw transpire during elections, but are not captured in the report. And I think that's the big miss in this EC report, which I think is a disservice or is a disadvantage to anybody out there who is accessing this report or is reading this report. And I hope we can have this discussion in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Priska. Thank you, Henry. And to all our viewers that tuned in today, it's been a great show. And when we return next Wednesday, we'll take an even closer look at the contents of this report because it belongs to us Ugandans. So keep safe and God bless you. See you next week, same time, same place.